Chuck Carstensen, Remax Results, broadcasting from Cambridge Remax Results, one of our conference rooms. Quick reminder, if you are listening or tuning in for the first time, please feel free to give us a review on the podcast, share it with somebody. We're going to continue to share a lot about the market, and then every once in a while I mix in a few other tips on the Real Life Impact podcast, which can be found in most places or a decent amount of places where podcasts go. Again, Chuck Carstensen with the Carstensen team at Remax Results. And today I'm going to be talking about why Minnesota housing market will be strong the next few months. So sometimes, depending if you listen to the news or who you talk to, they might say, oh, the market's not that great. Or the market, in the past couple of years, really great for sellers, harder for buyers. What I mean by strong the next few months, good activity, good sales, prices will be about where they're at. In some cases, there's multiple offers. In some cases, some of the houses go on the market and are kind of quiet. It's a little bit more of a normal market than it was in 2020, second half, 2021 all year, and 2022, most of the first half. But it's still a strong market, even if the economy is not overall amazing in some people's eyes. So I'm going to talk today about the top 3 reasons that the market will be strong for the next few months. And if you listen to my last podcast, or even if you haven't, go back and listen to it, I talked about 3 reasons why the Minnesota housing market was a little bit slower this time of year. And I talked about the weather and the general economy and the interest rates. So what happens in Minnesota? Again, we're going to talk about the weather this time of year, and then going forward for the next few months, it's nicer. And that's when most of the home buying happens. So the spring market is here. More people will be listing, which hopefully will help with that low supply that I talked about in the last podcast. Spring's here, people are getting out. And then I talked about interest rates last time being a problem. People are getting more and more used to the interest rates. They know that they could refinance in the future. And I mentioned that on the last podcast as well. So number 1 reason is just better weather, spring market. It sounds like I'm just sharing the difference of what I said about the low inventory, but it's a different reason, different season, and more people are out and about. That makes for a stronger market. And number 2, which goes along with this, is there's a pent-up demand. So we had the big rush of everybody buying and sellers out there, but there's a pent-up demand for buyers. So some of the things that people hold off on is like, oh, the market's going to go down, I'm going to hold off. Interest rates are high, I'm going to hold off. That's really not the case, that it's helping to hold off, because when there's an inflationary economy, it's going to be very, very hard for housing to dip a lot because everything just goes up. And there's pent-up demand because there have been people on the sidelines, on the fence, not doing anything. So that pent-up demand is going to come out, which is going to keep the market high enough and keep people moving. And people are going to just be like, okay, whatever, the interest rates are what they are, or refinance in the future. So got obviously the weather again, spring market, all the way through summer to fall, where people will be buying. And then the pent-up demand that it was a little bit slower the last few months as far as the amount of sales. So there's a pent-up demand, and there's probably a pent-up, allotment of sellers to help with the inventory. So that's number 2, the pent-up supply and demand. And then number 3, why it's going to stay strong, and I mentioned a little bit about the economy, is the pretend stable economy. Like the government pretends the economy is great, and I think maybe a lot of people don't pay attention, don't understand economy, don't care, whatever it is. Some people get overly worried about it, like it's going to implode, it's going to bubble, and they just don't know enough in general. Because I already mentioned this, if inflation is high, it's really hard for houses to go down. Inflation helped keep the house prices high last year, and they're keeping it up this year. And chances are the pretend economy, what I really mean is they're just going to keep printing money because that's what they seem to do. Now, eventually that's going to catch up with us. And I don't actually think it'll be this year it catches up with us. Someday down the road, I had predicted like 10 plus years around, well, now about probably 8 to 10 years, that the economy and the market will be really, really bad as far as real estate years from now. they'll just do what it takes to keep the economy up here for a little while longer. They'll print money. So the pretend stable economy will have more money in circulation, keep the prices up, people will spend money, and they'll refinance if they have a higher rate at a future date, and that'll keep the market strong for the next few months. And I know that's an answer probably nobody's going to give you, the pretend stable economy. You're not going to see that anywhere else, but that's probably actually the main reason, next to the pent up demand. And I always like to mention the weather, it seems like, in this podcast lately, but it does affect Minnesota housing. The weather is the pretend stable economy will keep it going. It'll keep it going till they decide to stop printing money and doing all kind of things like that, which will be a while. All right. So that answer, you're only going to get somewhere. So keep that in mind for the people watching this, that I gave you that answer probably first as far as real estate agent. And again, we're happy to help you if you have any real estate questions or needs. Things are moving along, starting to pick up because of the spring market. Chuck Carstensen, RE/MAX Results. Have a blessed day, and hope to talk to you again soon.